Welcome, everybody, to a new edition of UFO Man Live. My name is Tim, or UFO Man, and to my side is my friend, my co host, Tommy Highway. Tommy?
Hey, folks, I'm Tommy Highway. Want to thank everybody for coming out, especially on a special night. As many of you know, we're actually doing a little bit of research here. So we're going to start running on a Wednesday night as well as a Saturday night and kind of see which night works for us best. So we want to thank everybody for coming out. Really appreciate that. We have a very special show this evening, folks, with a very special theme. The theme is South America, folks. All of the weird things that have happened down there. We're talking about crashes. We're talking about aliens. We're talking about sightings. But the most important part of tonight, folks, is we have with us one of our very favorite guests. You've seen him here before. He's an author. He's an experiencer. He's one heck of a guy. Folks, we bring you Terry Lovelace. Terry, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks very much. I appreciate the warm welcome. I get here every time.
Our pleasure, sir.
You're more than welcome to be here. Okay, our first segment this evening for everybody in the chat room and everybody watching online, we're going to cover the Virginia alien encounter that happened back in 1996. And the person that's going to cover this is Terry Lovelace. Terry, take it away.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I pronounce this Varginha, but you say Virginia, I say Varginha. It's it's a major city in Brazil. This is a large territory or Brazilian state where it's located. It covers 152,000 square miles, so it's a big chunk of Brazil. It's a major coffee producer, exporter city. It's where all the coffee grown in that state gets funneled to, processed, and then shipped out. So it's a big, it's a big city. It's a big deal. And the event that happened on January 20th, 1996. And there were 3 schoolgirls, ages 14 through 22. 2 of them were sisters, and they spotted 2 ETs. And it said that in some sources that the latter, the ETs, had been captured by police, fire, and the Brazilian army. So they had everybody after these guys. And, after this event in 1996, Virginia did what a lot of cities do. They capitalized on the event and invested heavily in UFO tourism. There's a lot of stuff. There was a big write-up about it in the Wall Street Journal back in 96. And there was a special broadcast on it, on Brazil's version of 60 Minutes called Fantástico. And I found that the National Geographic had a reporter back in July of 2012 who tracked down 2 of these 3 girls who are obviously mid-20s now, late 20s, and they interviewed them. And it was a short interview, but it was an interesting interview from the standpoint of those who may have been abductees or experiencers, actually come in contact with ET. They were kind of reserved on camera, and but I thought they were very credible. The reporter asked them, how did this change your life? Was this exciting? Was it fun? And they were like, no. They said words they quoted wasn't a good experience at all. Typical stuff people have after running into ET. Nightmares,
Sure.
Fears, phobias, that kind of thing.
I heard they referred to what they saw as the devil, and because of the red eyes. Yeah, and the fact that it had such an overpowering ammonia type odor that it would take their breath away and create tears.
Yeah, strong ammonia odor.
Yeah. Basically, what we've got here is there was actually a crash that happened inside, I guess, pretty much downtown inside of this city or whatever, pretty close. And I guess there was a recovery, and their military went out there and recovered one dead body for sure. And this could be possibly a photo of that body. We're not sure about that, but I mean, it's always been said to be a photo of him. But that being said, their military brought one of these bodies into a hospital, and I guess one of their soldiers touched it with his bare hand, and he died something like 3 days later. Tim, what do you know about that one?
I've actually heard that he actually touched it, and something to do with the chemicals in the skin actually caused him to die of what looked like radiation poisoning. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's exactly what they were inferring. Now, I also heard that this one of the creatures was seen in a zoo.
That's right. That's correct. There's a lady that lived in near a zoo, very near a zoo, like on the outer perimeter. And while this was happening, she actually reported a creature that was strikingly similar to the creature that those girls reported, with red eyes and all that. And it had been out, I guess, lurking in the zoo or whatever at night. And this lady saw it a couple of times, and she did call authorities. I don't believe they found it that I know of. Tim, do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know if they found it or not, but I do know this for a fact. They recovered 2 dead aliens or life forms from the crash site. But the one that was outside that stone building where the girls came upon it, they made an observation, which I think we need to point out. They said that the head of the creature was kind of wobbly, like he wasn't able to stand properly, like he was suffering or in anguish from some type of injury. So the 2 that died plus the one that was still alive had to have had significant injuries. So I don't know where that one went, but I do know it was captured, the one near the building.
Now, one of the interesting things about this is that when I was reading this story when it first happened, I could be completely wrong about this, but didn't they mention that there were 2 different types of aliens involved here? There were 2 different. They were like the ones that were in the craft were somehow different from the ones that I guess were seen later or escaped or whatever. I mean, did anybody else hear about that, Terry?
Well, yeah, I heard that the girls described the things as being brown in color, and then there's also comments made about what they recovered were grays. Yeah, those are either 2 different ETs or they're conflicting stories, one or the other.
Yeah.
Most of the stories that I've read after scouring the internet or Google was they were brown with 3 knobs on the top of their heads. They were not grays, even though they had about the same height, because some grays can be between 4.5 and 5 foot tall, and that's what these creatures were, between 4.5 and 5 foot tall. So it's a possibility it was a misidentification when they said grays.
Yeah.
I remember coming away with it after reading the story, coming away with it with the impression like there were some aliens that were operating the craft were different than, and they had like either passengers or maybe even some kind of cargo or something like that, those other creatures. And that when they crashed that they'd found, I mean, again, that was the impression that I was left with. I could be completely wrong. But either way, I mean, these girls, like to Terry's point, I absolutely believe these little girls. I mean, I believe their story. They just tell it with too much conviction. And it's just weird how, again, everybody in this town right about the same time started having strange encounters with something that looked very similar with the red eyes and all of that.
And there were a rash of UFO sightings about the same time too.
Yep.
Right.
So, I talked to Kevin Randall about this. You guys know Kevin. He's written a ton of books and flew helicopters in both the Army and the Air Force. And we spoke about this case at a conference. And I don't remember which one it was, but we spoke about this case because he told me that he just got back from Brazil and went down and investigated it. So that was the first time that I've heard about this case.
Interesting.
But he said that they couldn't find, medical records, police reports, fire reports. You can't FOIA the Brazilian army, evidently. And he said the evidence was just very sparse. But, '96 was a long time ago, and we both know how hard it is to get evidence.
Records. Right. I actually saw some documents that were saying that, or actually news reports that were saying that the civilian authority in Virginia was trying to blow off the sighting as a homeless man that was covered in mud.
I'd heard that one as well. After the story got out, that's when they started backpedaling, the Brazilian government, because at first they weren't really, didn't seem like they were keeping too much of a tight lid on it. But then that's when I think Uncle Sam steps in. I really do. And says, okay, enough of that. You're going to go ahead and suppress all this information if you want, or they're threatened with economic, consequences or something like that. Yeah. And I think that's how this happens, because they were pretty free. And the Chileans, we're going to talk about that later, that Chilean, that craft that was blowing that stream of stuff. I mean, when that first happened in their area, their media went nuts about it, and it was in every newspaper and all over the place, and they were talking about it. Then all of a sudden, it's like the United States again stepped in, or somebody stepped in and threatened them with some sort of, I don't know what, probably economic sanctions or something. And they all of a sudden, boom, overnight, that story was gone, gentlemen. It's crazy.
Either that, or it was trying to be explained away as an airplane discharging some type of fluid, because that's the video I saw about a week after that originally came out.
Yeah, that was taken with infrared film, but wasn't visible in the normal spectrum. You couldn't see it with your eyes, right?
Right.
They couldn't see it on radar.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. We're going to segue into that after this discussion. Terry, do you have any more information on Virginia?
No, that's about it. We got the body description. I just wish there were more. Don't we always wish there was more evidence available?
Right.
It's just one of those things that there's just so much. There's more evidence of a cover up to this one, I think, than there is the actual, the crash and sightings and all of that itself. We're left with nothing but what the word of mouth of the people. And most of the people that have been interviewed over the years, they seem pretty credible. Those girls seem pretty credible. That elderly lady that they interviewed that lived near the zoo, I mean, she was legitimately flipped out. You could just tell she was agitated by this.
I ask myself, why would National Geographic, a reputable journal, why would they fly two people down there to go interview these girls if they didn't have some inkling that there could be, where there's smoke, there's fire?
Wonderful question.
National Geographic wouldn't go for any type of tabloid story. That's not them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this happened, and when it happened, it was a big thing. I mean, it was, it was something that everybody knew about. And of course, this is pretty much pre-internet and all that, and nobody knew what viral was. But this kind of went viral. And you heard they were talking about this in Europe, Asia, all over the place. This story. And to Terry's point, he's right. I mean, National Geographic is not going to risk their money and their reputation to go down there on a wild goose chase of a tale of a drunken hillbilly or something. They have something more substantial than that before they go down there.
Exactly.
And that was a great story. And if you ever get the chance to go out and look that up, folks, I highly recommend doing it, because I'm sure it's out there on YouTube. It's something good to watch. And like I say, you look at the people involved and listen to their stories, and they seem pretty credible.
Yeah, I think the National Geographic one is an interview with James Fox concerning the Virginia sighting.
It may have even been an Unsolved Mysteries that I saw this on.
It was an Unsolved Mysteries. I tried to find the episode and I couldn't find it. I remember seeing it on Unsolved Mysteries. That was the one with Robert Stack, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm certain I saw this story, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, and they say we don't have alien bodies in our possession. I would say that perhaps this story leads us to believe that there's a possibility that we do.
Sure, it's possible. Absolutely.
Okay.
So many crashes. I mean, so many crashes like we've talked about before at length. I mean, the alien UFO crashes are not that uncommon. I mean, they're not common. They don't happen every day, but they've happened enough in our country and other nations all over the world. I mean, there's just too many. There's too many stories out there. And now, supposedly, we've even heard rumors that they're playing with some metamaterial that was derived from an actual crash vehicle of some kind.
In South America. Yep.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to hear about the analysis on that or whatever. But the primary analysis is that however this metal is layered, we can't do that with our science. That's like the first thing they said.
Is that the stuff that Linda Moulton Howe was involved in the recovery of, and he went to Stanford for?
I'm not sure if that's the same one or not, but I do know that the metal that they're looking at, the comment they made was our world is being built on 80 elements, and this metal is being built on 258 elements.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even existing on our planet.
We don't have the stuff that's not on the periodic table. And the method used to actually layer this material, however that's done, I'm not a metallurgist, but for whatever it's worth, they're saying that this is very unique and we cannot do this with our science for whatever that's worth. So hopefully we'll be hearing some more about that. But there again, I fear that that's another case where all the analysis is going to be done on this, everything else, and then some government agency or somebody's going to step in and say, okay, you're not going to talk about this or whatever, and we're never going to get the actual truth. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, we're going to get a 5-page 4th grade book report, B+ average, right?
B+ work, buddy. You betcha.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Chilean 2014 UFO encounter.
The CEFAA, the Chilean government agency which investigates UFOs or unidentified aerial phenomenon, has declassified and released never-before-seen video from 2014 showing a mysterious flying object of which they suggest could have been a UFO. According to a press release from the agency, a Navy helicopter spotted the unidentifiable object while patrolling a coastal region near Santiago, Chile. The unknown object was seen flying at a constant speed, similar to that of the helicopter, and moving forward. The pilot tried several times to communicate with the object, but he received no reply. Air traffic control failed to detect any flying objects on radar. In 2 instances, the object ejected some type of gas or liquid with high thermal tracking. Captured on video, you can see a massive plume of material trailing behind the object. Moments later, a second ejection of the unspecified discharge. The flying object was visible for about 10 minutes before disappearing into the clouds without a trace. What could it be? Was it a UFO? Air Force photo analysts confirmed that the 3-dimensional object was real, with volume and showcased control in its movements. They established that there was no evidence of hoaxing or alteration of the video by any computer application in the editing and processing of the images. Officials also ruled out a bird or flying insect, a drone, parachute, or a hang glider. After an extensive study, the Committee for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena agreed it had all the characteristics to be classified as an unidentified aerial phenomenon. For FoxNews.com, I'm Rob Demetrius.
So that's the object that we're talking about. Now, after this news footage came out, a week later, they were trying to say that it was a plane that was discharging some type of liquid. That was the cover-up that was coming out. And a lot of us in the ufology community already knew that they were going to try and backtrack on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't see it without infrared, then it's not a plane.
If you can't see it on radar, it's not made of metal, and it's not anything that we understand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, what gets me about this one is, and you're right, it was infrared footage, so this could not be viewed with the naked eye. So when you look at the plume of this thing, when you look at that coming out of there, that is some pretty intensely hot gas or something material coming out of that, and it sticks around for a while. It's not like it's steam or like a contrail or whatever that starts to break up and dissipate or whatever. This looks like it stayed together for a while. Now, I don't know about you, but if I lived anywhere in that area, I would be concerned about my health at this point, because that's just not something that happens every day. Terry, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are there were Chilean army grunts underneath that plume of with all kinds of baskets or whatever they need to collect this stuff, whatever it was. It was collected somehow. It had, the residue had to go somewhere. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it evaporated into the air. But I would think, something may have fallen to the ground. I'd like to know where the reports are on that, what they found.
Right.
Well, you see, that's the thing which what we were talking about earlier. This was a huge story in really all over the world, but especially in Chile. I saw guys walking around with T-shirts with this thing on it, okay, in the news and stuff. I mean, it was real big within their media and all of that. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, it just wasn't. And I mean, it wasn't even like it kind of faded out like stories usually do in the news. It was just like, boom, gone, like shoot, like somebody, dropped the anvil. And like we were saying earlier, I mean, I just think that Uncle Sam is so concerned about this technology. And when I say concerned about it, I think concerned about getting his hands on it, that I think that we've probably pushed our way around a lot of other countries and offered them economic incentives for things. And hell, the Mexico thing, we outright went and took that from the Mexicans. I mean, we flat out violated their territory to carry that disc. Remember the story where all the Mexican soldiers were found dead?
Yep.
I mean, we went in, we violated Mexican sovereign territory. So Uncle Sam will do a lot of stuff to get his hands on this. And I think he had something to do with quashing the story, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think they're also trying to quash the idea of alien life, because if they come out with, say, the truth and they're not benign, that some of these beings are hostile and they're a threat to the country and the world, then they're trying to prevent it. Otherwise, besides hiding technology that we have, which would change world power as we know it, if we let, say, China know, hey, guess what? We have something that can neutralize your hypersonic missile, and that would completely change world power. But so in Tommy's point, in regards to hiding technology that we have and going after it wherever we can in the world, I believe that. But I also believe they're hiding the alien life recognition, telling people, hey, we have real alien life here. And this is what's been happening with them. They brought planes down. They've taken planes that have never reappeared. People have gone missing. There's been horrific alien abductions. Things are happening beyond our control. So that's one of the issues I want to say. What do you think, Terry?
I think you're spot on, and that admitting any government that admits that it has remains, or God forbid, I hope they have an actual living ET. Can you imagine the firestorm that's going to start?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Who's responsible for the welfare of this thing? Is it being treated humanely? Does the UN, need to come in and check out things? I mean, it would just be huge.
Yeah,
It becomes very complicated instantly.
Yeah.
Right. Is calling it a gray racist?
Yeah. You know how things will change. Yeah.
Right.
That's true. And that's bigger. An alien itself, I agree with you, is bigger than an actual UFO.
Bigger
because
than
that's
a chunk of metal.
Yeah, then next thing you know, you're looking at something right in the face. That brings it too close to home. Well, I mean, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Roswell crash, all the bodies, at least the dead bodies for sure, were rumored to have been stored there. And I heard that growing up all my life because I grew up in that very neighborhood, actually. But, as far as living bodies, we've had all kinds of reports of different living bodies. There were bodies supposedly at Area 51. There's been a S4, the Dossier thing. Supposedly that was like a joint venture between, Uncle Sam and aliens that didn't apparently end well. So I mean, you get to the point where you got so much smoke that there's got to be fire, in my opinion.
Well,
I mean,
let me ask you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Terry. Go ahead.
Please, Terry.
I was just going to say, if you guys, I'm sure you've seen the footage of so-called Skinny Bob.
That's what I was just going to mention. Yep.
And the odd way that it was posted by somebody, went on one time, made one post, and disappeared or something.
Right.
You know more about it than I know, Tim.
Yeah, Skinny Bob is actually in our intro, and Skinny Bob is alleged to be have some veracity to it. That it's an actual EBE that was kept at Area 51 for a while. I think it was about 5 years, in fact. And he was kept there, and they developed a rudimentary communication process because, they're rumored to speak telepathically. So they were using hand signals and shapes like drawings, geometric drawings, to develop some type of communication system between them and EBE1 or Skinny Bob. And they did do that. And they learned quite a bit from Skinny Bob. But from what I understand, there is a rumor out there, and I cannot base any fact on it. He either escaped or went back home somehow.
Is this the one that Clifford Stone was involved in?
Yeah.
I was just going to mention that Clifford Stone, I'm not sure if it was Skinny Bob, but Clifford Stone was told the story that he actually assisted one in escaping. And he said if he didn't do that, the thing had told him telepathically that they were going to come in and take him, and then there's going to be a bloodshed and all that. Is that the one you're talking about, Terry?
That's exactly right. Word for word.
That's EBE1. That's Skinny Bob.
That's Skinny Bob. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Clifford Stone, I mean, you can take that guy for however you want him, but he swore about that, and he told that story often, that he was involved in that. There's also the one that was killed just outside the base by one of the guards. He shot it several times, and it crawled over a fence and died. Yeah, they found it. So, there's just too many stories out there for all of them to be fake. I'm sorry, it's just that's not happening.
Right. I agree with Tommy 100%. There's too much information, too much smoke, and not enough fire. But there's got to be fire there because there's just too much. And they're hiding it out in the open. They're hiding it amongst fiction. So you really have to dig.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, should we go ahead and move on? Or
you got anything more to say?
I got a brief story about Argentina.
Okay, let's do that.
I found a story about and the reason this is short, and the only reason I bring this up is the name of the town in Argentina is Capilla del Monte, and supposedly residents there see UFOs all the time. And there was a 1980 event where a craft of some kind skimmed down, crash landed in some field, and caused a fire. But I don't find anything about a recovery. But what I do find is that Capilla del Monte capitalized on this news story, and in much the same way as Virginia did, and they and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either. They made it, all kinds of tourist attractions, and it employs local people. It helps the local economy. And, most importantly, it perpetuates an interest in this topic that we all embrace. So,
right. Kind of like Roswell. Yep.
You don't spend that kind of money and base your economy around something that's speculative rumor. I mean, you just don't do that. I mean, there had to have been something at some point happen for them to shift their economy, their local economy to embrace this thing. I mean, like Roswell, and we were talking earlier backstage, Roswell, you would not believe the business that they do in that town. And if it weren't for the aliens, I'll be honest with you, the alien stuff, I'm not really sure what else Roswell has to, well, I don't want to insult anybody from Roswell, but let's just say that that's definitely what their economy, their local economy is based around, is that event in history, put it that way.
Right. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move on to the Nazca lines. Tommy?
That's right. Just a moment, folks. Okay, folks. The Nazca lines have been around forever. And what these basically are is they're giant glyphs that have been cut into the tops of mountains, into the plains and things like that. And they have different shapes and sizes. There's a lot of animals, things of that nature. But there's all kinds of theories on what the Nazca lines are, what they're for, and why they're even there. Because, again, these things were carved into the earth in such a way that only people, the only way to actually see these glyphs would be from the air. And they spent enough time on these things and carved so deeply that they still exist today. But the Nazca line theories emerged because, according to dating, the 13,000 lines and 800 geoglyphs ranged from 550 to 650 years AC. And the controversy over the identity of those who created the tracks, and to know the real purpose of these enigmatic draws that nowadays continue more relevant than ever. At first, any archaeologist could explain the reason its existence, which led to different theories. One of these theories is that extraterrestrial theory suggested that an amateur archaeologist from Switzerland named Erich von Däniken, according to which the drawing was a trapezoidal landing craft built by aliens who visited the Earth long time ago, and the giant portrayed in the hillside, the astronaut, is the figure of the alien testified by the Nazca. So let me see here. I've lost you, Tim. Where did you go?
That scientist was known as Däniken.
Däniken. Okay, so this is the guy that really first brought this thing on the map. I mean, everybody knew they were there forever, but this is the guy that really put it out there. Far from being a great story, but perhaps the lines were not exactly landing strips, as suggested by Däniken. This theory coincides with other somewhat similar traces of, quote, gods of old, left as testimony to that contact. After all, lines can only be appreciated from the air. So, I'm sorry, this thing is not written. I think it's translated from another language. Looks like maybe Spanish or Portuguese. But so what it's saying there is you can only see these things from the air. So if you think about it and you look at these lines and you look at some of the overlays that Tim's putting out there right now, I mean, think about the art that went into this. Think about how do you draw a monkey when you actually can't see the monkey. You know what I mean? You can't see what you're doing, yet they were able to do this. It's very interesting. But the theory most widely accepted by scientists is the theory of the calendar. According to Maria Ricci, the drawings are the schedule and map of the sky world's largest. The countless lines that cross the desert in all directions were used to observe the movements of the sun and the moon. Using this method, the Nazca Indians could announce the change of seasons and use this knowledge for agriculture. Some animals drawn indicate the direction in which a large seasonal constellation can be seen, but some people disagree with this theory. A strong wind blowing Palatia, called a seasonal round in this region, is often very foggy, but during the day is sunny. In the morning and this is messed up. In the morning and evening are usually covered. Therefore, sunrise or after sunset is too dark to see the drawings. In other words, the Nazca Desert is not the ideal place for making meteorological observations. So I guess that's true, but that's where they lived. And again, I'm not buying the theory that these things are, for weather patterns or weather tracking and all that. I mean, I look at the monkey, I don't see storm clouds. I just don't. Another of the many theories says that the answer lies in the Nazca pottery, which is one of the masterpieces of the ancient Andean civilization. It is characterized by bright colors. All the gods designed Nazca pottery. In their mouths are agricultural products. Again, sorry for the bad translations. This shows the importance that he gave his village to agriculture. All drawings of animals in the desert are repeated in ceramics. The only difference is that the drawings in the desert are made with a single unbroken line. Another feature is that there is always a segment of the drawing that is open, and the drawings are made in one stroke without interruption. So think about that. They're carving these giant lines into the earth, into the rock, folks, into the rock. And they're doing it with one unbroken line, almost like they're using a giant pen or something to do this. Think about that. Now, how did they do that? It's amazing. Now, the land of the Nazca is arid with no rain all year, so it's pretty much the desert. From generation to generation, have been survived working the little land on the banks of the river. So there's a little bit of place where they can grow stuff, planting appropriate to the sandy soil grains. The land is poor and dry. Thanks to the wells were able to continue farming. Yeah, again, I'm really sorry about the translation on this, folks. It sucks. But what we're saying here again is that these things, they don't really have, they're reaching for straws here on why these things exist. Okay. That's what they're doing. They're really trying to pull one, forgive me, but out of their ass on this one. Especially when you look at the fact that these things are as enormous as they are, and we're done with an actual unbroken line. Terry, what are your thoughts on this one?
I agree with you. It's more like building a pyramid, or it should be ranked up there with the wonders of the world. It's a big
Absolutely.
deal.
Yeah, totally agree.
I have to say something about this picture here. This picture is the top of a mountain, and they say the top of the mountain was removed completely to make it flat. So where did all that dirt and earth go? How was it moved before they made the lines?
Had they trucked that out of there?
Yeah, that and the amazing thing is, I think you hit on this, Tim. They've never found a bit of rubble. They don't find a rubble pile. There is no rubble pile. So where did it go?
They never found one. Not at all. So where did all that dirt go?
One single unbroken line. These people don't have equipment that they can use. They don't have bobcats running around out there and trucks to truck this stuff off. They don't have jackhammers or anything like that. Yet they're able to carve these things and make them presentable as what they are. When you look at it, you tell exactly what it is. Any human can tell you what that is. Okay. And an unbroken line. How in the heck did they pull that off? It's amazing. It's like one of the mysteries, like you said, one of the wonders of the world, Terry. And it's one of those mysteries like the pyramids. We can't figure out how that happened yet either, after all the science that we've thrown at it. And this is another example of that. Tim, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of like they had spotting from the air. Somebody was watching from the air to tell them, okay, now make the mark over here. Because otherwise, how would they be able to get it the way it is? I mean, some of those pictures cover meters or miles. And it's just incredibly large. I mean, I showed you the picture of the plane up against the hummingbird just to show scale. You could see that. It's just huge. So how did they make the feathers on the bird and the head on the bird and the lines making the beak be so straight without having somebody spotting from the air?
Well, and before they could do that, wouldn't they have had a blueprint? Somebody would have had to, on the back of a rock or something, have drawn, okay, guys, this is what we're going to make, and.
Right, because some of those animals aren't even indigenous to Brazil,
right,
or where the Nazca lines are.
Really?
That's right. That's
They're
right.
not.
It's just amazing why do this? Then you can even go into the landing strip there. And what's that all about? I mean, look at that. It looks like some sort of a modern day landing strip that they've actually carved into the earth. Again, how they carve that into the earth, what tools they use and things like that. I mean, how do you do that with rocks and wood? And you're in the desert. I mean, there's nothing, you don't really even have enough water or anything like that to power anything. You're in the middle of the desert, literally. And they were able to pull this off. It is truly a feat of mankind. And I just don't believe for a second that it was all mankind. I think Tim's right. I think that they had somebody spotting from the air. I think that's the only way to do it. And to Terry's point, I mean, absolutely, they would have had to have a plan. And it would have had to have a big plan. And it took a lot of engineering to go into this to make the things that, to Tim's point, that are symmetrical to the animal and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't see a bunch of hill people pulling that off by themselves, folks. I'm sorry.
Supposed to
Some
tell
people
you
in the
that.
chat drew a analogy between the Nazca lines and crop circles, and I think that's a really good analogy to draw, because some of these very intricate crop circles, have to be done by a plan. I mean, we think that they're, probably ET inspired or ET pulled off, and supposedly they can tell the difference between something done by man and something done by ET. Their physiological changes to the plants. So,
Right. And to be done in one unbroken line to make a crop circle. Think about that. What is the connection between them and the Nazca lines? Perhaps the same beings that helped them spot from the air also worked on some of those crop circles.
Never know.
Wasn't one of those crop circles ended up being a message? It was like one of those barcode things, the square barcode things. Wasn't it like a message or something to humanity or somewhere in
you
England?
mean the one with the circle with the .00x code that was in the middle with it was a circle and then an alien head.
Maybe I remember it being a square. It was just like a square message, but it's some kind of, and they were able to to decipher it. It was some kind of warning to humanity about the environment or something along those lines, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But you're right. I mean, some of these crop circles are just some of them can be explained, and some of these guys are pretty good at it. But also when they've taken photos of a field, and then like an hour later, come first light, all of a sudden here's this thing after like an hour. It's just amazing how that works. I mean, no one could ever. I just don't believe that. I just don't believe all crop circles were man-made.
No, Dr. Simeon Hein convinced me of that because he goes there every year, and there are distinct differences between what we make and what ET makes.
I also believe that not all of them are environmentally caused. There's the old environmental scapegoat reason. Oh, it was caused by a swirling vortex. Not real, because a lot of the crop circles are cookie cutter clean and they're done overnight, multiple circles, multiple designs. I don't believe it.
And it's not caused by a rapid weather rapid weather changing pattern brought on by, let's say global warming and racism. It's not that stuff. I mean, it's just not there. And you're right. I mean, some of these are absolutely impossible to explain, and that's just the bottom line.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to move on to the next segment there, Tim?
Sure. We're going to move on to our South American UFO video review. All these clips are from South America. Here we go. Some we may have already seen, but they are South American. Hey guys, in this clip we have multicolored flashing lights over Venezuela, recorded on 9/23/2020. Check it out. This one's hard to tell what it is because you can't see behind it and there's no real frame of reference. But I thought the colors were unique.
I don't know what that is. It's one of those things where I'd love to see the context in the daytime, what's back behind it and things of that nature. But It does look like the lights are changing color. And it doesn't look like they have, they're not regular running lights. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Interesting.
They have unique colors, which makes me think it could be a drone, but I don't know for certain.
Well, everyone knows how we feel about drone pilots around here. So,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, this one's almost done. I just wanted to show how the lights change. In this clip, we have a 7-light UFO or 7 individual lights or possibly a disc over northern Chile, filmed on 11/22/2020.
Okay, let's just go ahead and write off flares right off the bat. I mean, I don't see the plumes on flares. I don't see them swaying in the wind, and they look like they're just holding position. Could those be drones? Well, maybe. But like we've been told recently by a drone expert, actually, that you can put some pretty bright lights on drones, but they can only stay aloft for a little bit of time. You can't keep them up forever. That to me looks like, I don't know, man. That could be a disc. That could be the leading edge of a disc.
What do you think, Terry? You're muted.
I think it looks like the leading edge of a disc.
Yes.
It looks like square windows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No flares on this one.
Pretty big, too.
The other thing I've been told about light drones is especially when you're lighting them up and things like that, it's very hard to keep them lined up with each other because of the wind, and they're very light. So, again, you're talking about small batteries and things like that. You just can't keep them aloft forever, and they'll blow around.
Right.
Justin,
This clip was
2020.
also filmed in northern Chile of a group of multi-white lights filmed on 12/11/2020. Check it out. Now they're kind of far away, so they're not necessarily easy to see. But this area of Chile has been very popular for UFO sightings of this sort, where there are multiple lights in a group flying over the city.
Awfully big, awfully bright. They're staying in one spot. I mean, we're not looking at helicopters here, guys. I don't think we're seeing that.
No.
Huh. You can put that in the definite maybe pile for sure. And like Tim said, to Tim's point, I mean, Chile is just crawling with UFOs. I mean, it's a hot spot for whatever reason.
My thought is it's a hot spot because of a lot of the ancient ruins are said to be alien built, or alien assisted in their build. And if that's the case, perhaps these UFOs are returning, or they never left.
Maybe there's something in the Chilean mountains that they like. Maybe they've left equipment there buried. Maybe it's something about the minerals, that they're into. Who knows? Maybe it could even be the Chilean people. I mean, you're talking about one of the more ancient peoples of the planet. Let's be honest, and that's like the second cradle of life right there. Who knows?
Right. This clip was filmed over Campinas, Sao Paulo, Brazil on 4/25/2021. Check it out. Almost appears to be a walnut shape. What do you think? What do you think, Terry?
I guess we always can't get what we want. I like to see something enter the frame and then exit
and
the frame.
leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if it hovers in one place, that's something that we had to consider.
Yeah, no, that's compelling. I'm not ruling it out at all. I think it's very compelling.
Huh. Very interesting.
It's just sitting there.
Well, we've seen them do that. Look at the O'Hare thing.
Right.
Is that rotating?
A little bit, yes. It looks like it's rotating, yeah. It looks like it's rotating counterclockwise. From left to right. In this clip, we have a 300 to 400 foot long estimated vehicle or UFO against a mountainside over Argentina, filmed on July 8th, 2021. This thing, you can actually see the light pulsing from the right to the left. Once we get a steadier image.
It looks enormous.
Is there any more background info on this, Tim?
The only information I got on this one was it was definitely not in the trees. There were no buildings or light sources behind it. Okay, this was suspended above the mountainside. It was estimated at 300 to 400 feet long. It was completely silent. It did not move. It was hovering, and the lights were pulsing back and forth.
Huh. It just looks so out of place. And that guy's got the zoom port on that thing too. He's way far away from it.
Right. In this clip, we have a UFO that's estimated at 300 feet wide over Sao Paulo, Brazil, filmed in July of 2021. Check it out. We've seen this one before on our channel, but it was worth showing again because of the multiple colored lights and how big it is. Absolutely no sound either.
Kind of reminds me of that depiction of that fake UFO that supposedly the United States government has. You know the one I'm talking about with it's the one that they say would start a false flag or whatever.
Yeah, it's the one that looks like a manta ray.
Yeah, exactly, with Christmas lights on it.
Except this one here was verified by the witness as being huge, multiple witnesses, silent, and barely moving. It was here we have what looks like a disc UFO reflecting sunlight to the left over Brazil, filmed on 9/25/2021. Check it out.
I love the way the sun glints off the top and to the left.
Right.
That's great.
That just looks like a solid object just hanging there, doesn't it?
Sure.
Right.
Justin Maynard says, you know what? That looks just like the one that scanned the crowd of people in Tokyo. I'd love to have more context on it, but other than that, I mean, that sure looks like a solid object hanging in the sky for no reason.
Right, and it's a daylight sighting, which is very rare to have something that clear.
Agreed.
There it is. In this clip, we either have a diamond or walnut-shaped UFO over Poema, Brazil on 9/14/2021. Check it out. Looks almost like the other one.
It does, doesn't it?
It's really cool that you have this collection of recent sightings. This isn't old stock footage laying around. This stuff is new.
Right.
It just lends the more credence to the fact that South America is just a major hotspot for UFO activity right now. We're getting a lot of videos from there, a lot of footage, photos, stories, things of that nature. We're actually being contacted by a lot of folks over on the website.
In this clip, we have three unknown lights filmed over Lima, Peru on 4/1/2021. Check them out and let me know what you think they are. There's more than 3 lights there. There's like 3 or 4 maybe. And this is Lima, Peru, which is something you don't hear very often. Most of the sightings seem to be occurring over Brazil or Chile. What do you think of this one, Terry?
I think it's interesting. It looks like it might be a solid object rotating, maybe, a solid lit up object. I don't know. What is that structure to the left? Do we know what that is? Is it like
it's a building.
Okay.
I think it's a building.
No, it's a window. They're looking out of a window, and that's the side of whatever the curtains and stuff are.
It could be.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're right, Tommy. You're absolutely right.
Here it is here, separated into 4 individual segments.
Huh. Oh, that is just interesting. In
this clip, we have a bright reddish orange strip of lights over Cruzeiro, Brazil, filmed on 7/28/2021. Now, at first, I thought these lights were maybe the top level of a building, but I found out from the witness by talking to them that there is no building that right there that is that high. So these lights are actually suspended in the sky. Now, what is behind it? I don't know. Is there a mountain range? I don't know. I can't tell you. But the colors are indicative of other sightings that I've seen. And when we look at it closer, it looks like the lights are moving, some of them. They're not just totally stationary.
It's like we've said before, we're never really sure of the exact color because of the way digital cameras work, but that is a very interesting orange. If that's a string of lights, you're right. It had to be a mountain or something behind there. You just don't see any building. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't see a rectangle.
No, the witnesses said there was no building there. So I don't know what that is. What do you think, Terry?
I don't know. It's strange. I've never seen anything quite like that. That's unique, for me at least.
Brent Elliott in the chat says a lot of these look like plasma. You're right, they do. In this clip, we have an unknown bright orangish red light dropping orbs within a tree over Curitiba, Brazil on 1/10/2021. Check it out. This one's kind of interesting because it shows a really bright orangish red light in a tree moving around. And you can see it jumping among the branches. Someone thought at one point that this might be lightning from like a power line that got trapped in the tree. It hasn't been verified, so we don't know for certain. But what is interesting about it is it actually goes down by the ground toward the road at the end of the clip. See how it's dancing around?
If that were an electrical wire doing that or something, though, wouldn't it be setting that tree on fire?
You would think so, yes. Anna Ridgeway says, "Hey, Tommy Highway." Claude and I, Candido from Brazil said, "It's just like what I saw, and I sent the video. It has a weird red shape." And she's from Brazil. Thank you, Claude and I. Or he's from Brazil. I'm sorry.
In this clip, we have what appears to be a large mothership over the Santiago, Chile mountain range, filmed from a passenger jet at 30,000 feet on July 15th, 2021. Check it out.
Well, from here it looks like a cloud, but when you get closer, it doesn't. Because there's nothing like it around it. Wait till I get in closer. Okay. This is just the original footage. We're going to get in closer, but it's right in the middle there among that one rounded peak on the right there. It's hard to see right now, but I'm waiting to zoom in. Hey, Al Warrior, good to see you. Hey, John, Justin, Claude and I, Anna Ridgway, I see UFOs. Welcome. Okay, that's not showing anything. I do zoom in. Here we go. All right, there it is. Above the mountain.
Wow, look at that. Huh.
Now, it doesn't look like a cloud like any of the other clouds around it.
Oh,
No, it
that's a
doesn't.
solid object with the sun glinting off the top.
Sure does, doesn't it? Huh. Wow.
I'd say that's definitely a mothership. It's very, very large. Welcome, Game Vet. Thank you for the compliment. Game Vet is our trucker ufologist representative for the UFO Man channel. And to think, this was filmed from a jet. So if it's filmed from a jet and the jet is moving, I don't know how it's keeping the picture steady, other than the fact that I think the original edit was made to keep it in the center of the frame.
Huh.
I think the wobble of the camera is just from the person trying to keep the edit still, Anna Ridgway.
Yeah, Anna read my mind. I was wondering about that wobbly thing too. I think that he zoomed in on a faraway object and trying to keep it steady.
Right, that's it. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. That's just incredible footage. So, Tommy, hands down UFO?
I just can't
In this
imagine
clip,
that
we
being
have a
anything else. It
bright
was definitely not a
yellow
cloud.
UFO that seems to be segmented, moving towards the northwest over Sao Paulo, Brazil on 7/10/2020. Check it out.
Yeah, this one's interesting because it looks like a bunch of objects clustered together in an oval, like it's segmented or many objects together.
Oh,
See
yeah, I
that?
see what you mean. Yeah.
And they're all moving together in one direction.
It's so compacted like that. We're not talking about, I just don't believe we're talking about a bunch of individual objects like Chinese lanterns or any of that crap. I think we're looking at something that's connected. I mean, just look at them, the way they're moving.
Right. But we've seen before in other UFO videos where a bunch of lights have come together to form one light.
Sure have.
So I'm thinking these could be a bunch of individual vehicles all clustered together to make one object. But that's just my opinion.
Huh.
Brent Elliott says maybe light beings. Hello, blue people.
Huh. Interesting.
What do you think, Terry?
I think it's interesting. I think it's one solid object. It may have a lot of moving components, but I think it's one solid object.
Agreed.
Okay,
In this clip, we have a fast white orb type UFO changing direction to chase an airplane at a Brazilian air show in July of 2021. Check it out.
yeah, it changes direction. It's initially passing the jet, and then it stops and it goes back the other way. Let's see if I could show it. There it goes. Now it's going to stop. I wonder if we show the plane.
In this final clip, we have a double row of multiple lights filmed by a motorist on 7/20/2021 over Sao Paulo, Brazil, which seems to be a very popular area for UFO sightings, at least within this UFO compilation. So if you like the video, hit that like button and subscribe. And remember to share us out to your social media platforms. Thank you.
This one almost seems two layered, like two rows of lights, not just one on top of the other, Terry.
Yeah, I see it kind of like as a disc being tilted.
Yeah, me too.
It's, lit 360 degrees.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending our South American UFO video review. We try to do a video review every so often so that you guys can take a look at them and rule them out if necessary, because we're not afraid of debunking what we show.
That's right. In fact, we'll debunk it every chance we get, especially when we think someone's trying to pull a fast one on us, which, it doesn't really happen too often. And most of the stuff that we actually encounter out there, well, we can, like, how can I put this? We can, Tim's got a pretty good eye for telling the fake stuff for the real stuff, so he's able to,
Right.
Just to omit a bunch of the crap right off the bat.
I want to welcome Lisa Savoy to our chat room. We interviewed her recently, and Terry knows her as well. So welcome, Lisa.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, we're going to go into our next segment. Our next segment is on South American metamaterials being studied by Stanford. Take it away, Tommy.
That's right, folks. Let me see if I can pull this photo up and show it to you. One moment. This is what we're talking about right here. This is actually photos of the materials themselves that are in vials. And I don't think I can. Yeah, I guess I can. No, I'll do it this way. All right. Debris of alleged UFO crashes in South America being studied in Stanford lab. Silicon Valley, USA. Physical debris obtained through on-field research of alleged UFO crashes in Colombia and Argentina is now being studied by scientists. Dr. Jacques Vallée has collected purported material debris from UFO cases dating back as far as 1947. Think about that. That expert, 1947, that experts are analyzing in a state-of-the-art laboratory at Stanford University at this time. The breakthrough has come with the invention of a machine that enables scientists to look at the atomic structure of a selected material. At that microscopic level, the atomic structure is impossible to fake. This device is called a multi-parameter ion beam imager, and which Dr. Gary Nolan, a Stanford microbiologist, is using to create a revolutionary three-dimensional image to analyze the samples right down to their individual atoms. Think about that. The process is called multiplexed ion beam imaging, or in short, MIBI. When Dr. Nolan placed some of the fragments in the vacuum chamber of his instrument, he was astonished to find that their composition was unlike any other known metal. No matter where he looked in the sample's jumble of elements, whether magnesium, iron, nickel, or titanium, the ratio of isotopes didn't make any sense. If you were talking about an advanced material from an advanced civilization, you're talking about something that I'll just call an ultra material. It's something which has properties where somebody is putting it together, again, at the atomic scale. So in other words, this is actually an alloy that's an alloy at the atomic level. Think about that. That is incredible. No matter where, I'm sorry, if you are talking about an advanced material from advanced civilization, you're talking about something that is out of this world. It's something which has properties where somebody is putting it together again at an atomic scale, which humanity is not capable of doing. We're building a world with 80 elements. That's all we have, 80 elements on the periodic table. Somebody else is building a world with 253 different isotopes, Nolan said. Now think about that for a second. I mean, we're talking about materials that we cannot be produced on this planet, is not produced by humanity, and using a method of production that is so far away from us that, I mean, we might as well be apes at this point. I mean, you're talking about bonding materials at a molecular level. The closest thing I can come to on that would be probably nitride treatment or something like that of steel, which basically you gun guys out there will know takes a very micro layer of the steel and makes it a lot harder than the rest of the steel around it. It's a process that creates a very nasty form of waste and all of that. But that's the only thing that I could think of that would be even close to this. But with this doctor's instruments, he'd be able to tell us if it was nitrided or not. So, where did it come from, Tim?
It almost reminds me of DNA splicing. It's kind of like they're creating metals at the atomic level, kind of like how we're creating genetic alterations at the atomic level. So it's the same thing, but they're doing it with metals and alloys and biological materials that also interlace with metals that are so far advanced that we don't even have a concept of some of these 253 isotopes. We can't even conceive of them yet. And I know that we're above 80 elements on the chart. I think we're if I'm correct, Terry, I think we're around 170 now. I think we're at 170 because we passed up element 150 or 115, and we're significantly beyond it.
118 elements on the periodic table currently.
Okay, 118. Okay, I stand corrected. But that's those are the ones we can conceive of scientifically. So if you think about that, out of 253, that means there's at least 140 some odd isotopes or elements that we can't even think of. We haven't even thought of them yet.
Cannot be identified.
Right. So in my opinion, they're not from here.
What are your thoughts, Terry?
I don't want to get off point here, but did you say that doctor's name was Dr. Gary Nolan?
Yes.
I just wonder if that's the same Dr. Gary Nolan affiliated with To the Stars Academy.
I'm not sure, but I think there's a very good possibility.
I bet it would be.
Can you tell from what you're looking at? Is it listed as Gary Nolan, MD?
Let me take a look.
It could be some totally.
Just says Dr. Gary Nolan, Garry, which is interesting spelling for Gary.
That is. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. I mean,
Right.
Stanford's a place to go, I guess, to have it analyzed, huh?
I do know that the ATOM organization set up by Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and one other gentleman when they broke free from To the Stars Academy, they're studying metamaterials as well.
Yeah.
Well, what was his name? Stone. What I'm trying to say, Clifford Stone. Toward the end of his life, which he just passed away somewhat recently, but he was actually working with the Blake brothers, and I saw an advertisement for their show that he actually had some metamaterials or materials from, I believe it was Roswell, hidden away someplace, and then he was going to go ahead and turn those over for analysis. But then after I heard that, I never heard another word about it, so I don't know whatever became of that, if anything. But it's interesting. Clearly, if something breaks up, especially like the Roswell crash, they were saying that was spread out over a large area, there's going to be pieces and little fragments of stuff everywhere. Now, in the case of Roswell, it's rumored that the military literally locked arms, went side by side and locked arms and walked the property, walked that farm, that ranch rather, to make sure that they got every little piece of this material. But I just find it hard to believe that they could have got everything. And there's other crashes around the world that's the same story. I mean, we've talked about them at length. People are gonna eventually come up with some pieces of this stuff. I mean, the law of averages is just gonna win,
Right. Brent Elliott says we may be an ant farm, and that's why they keep an eye on our nukes. They don't want us to mess up their project.
Could be good. It's good as the theory as any. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, it's like I believe it was Bob Lazar said, and I think it was one of the best quotes I've ever heard. He said that imagine you're walking, you're out in the woods somewhere, out in the wilderness, and you're walking down a trail and you come upon an anthill. Do you stop to try to communicate with the anthill? What if we're the anthill? You know what I mean? Think about that. And that's kind of profound. Maybe we're just not interesting enough to contact. Probably aren't, actually.
Right. Okay, any last comments, guys?
Well, folks, want to thank everybody for coming out as always. Really hope we brought a good show for you tonight. Really appreciate everybody for coming out on our new night. Remember, we're going to be doing this for at least the foreseeable future. We're going to be doing a Wednesday night show, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to be doing our Saturday night show, Eastern time. And we're just going to kind of see how it goes. We're kind of seeing how things trend at this point. Again, we've had a lot of folks that have come to us and said, hey, Saturday night is just bad for us. We wish you were on another night. And that's kind of why we're doing this. Also want to thank Terry for coming, as always, very much. This man is fantastic. He really adds a lot of flavor to the show. You guys got to get out there and buy his books and listen to his story. It's just amazing. I mean, Terry is an experiencer. He has a wonderful story to tell, and he is very unique in that he actually has implants in his body that he just can't account for how they got there. So we want to thank you, Terry, for coming as always, sir.
Sure. My pleasure to be here. Great content, guys. Great content.
Thank you very much for being here, Terry. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody in the chat room, everybody who watched online, and from all of us on the panel, good night.